very traditional, spoke entirely Ute, and grew up that way. My mother was born on the Southern Ute Reservation. She was an Uncompahgre, so was my father. And by the way, who can tell me what Uncompahgre means? Uncompahgre. What? There you go. Yeah. Okay. Uncompahgre is another slaughter of the Ute word, which is how we say it is Acapahar. Acapahar is the Ute way of saying that. So when the census takers and the people came that were documenting things, they were using phonics to sound out the Ute words so that they could spell them out. So when a Ute was asked, "What are you?" he said, "Acapahar." So the best way he could spell it was Uncompahgre, U-N-C-O-M-P. That's the spelling for it. But if you break it up, Aka, the U-N-C-A means red, P-A-H, water, and the G-H-R-E is the vowel sound of Acapahar, means red water. And if you put people into it, we are called Utes, but that's a Spanish word for Utah. Utahs, they called us people that lived here Utahs. But our word for ourselves is Nooch. N-U-C-H-E. Nooch means a person of substance, a person that has feelings, walk, think, has conscience. This is a Nooch. So you put it together and you have Acapahar Nooch. And in your language, it's Uncompahgre Ute. So I'll probably vacillate back and forth through that. So when we do our powwows, today in the old days, powwows or dancing, it was a dancing. It was called war dancing by the English people. But to us, they were dances to celebrate certain functions. If you were to go off to war with another tribe back in the 1800s, 1700s, then you would have a kind of like a cheering section, a time to say, we're going to go and we're going to be brave, you know, and we're going to do what we have to do because we're forced to do this. They're encroached upon our hunting grounds, and we've got to protect our hunting grounds because, you know, we were territorial back then too. And so they would hold these cheerleading sections or to spice themselves up and get themselves psychologically set to go out and do what they had to do. And so it was called a war dance. And so that progressed into dances of other sorts. You know, other tribes have different dances. About 2 months ago, I watched a buffalo dance. I watched the Aztecas dance for their own purposes and their own reasons. And ours was the war dance. This was the Plains Indians that I'm talking about. And it was meant for hunting. You celebrated when you're going to go hunt. You did some prayers and you said, I'm going to be successful. You took your horse down by the spring and washed him and blessed him at the same time so he would be sure-footed and take you across broken lands at a gallop to give you a gain. That kind of thing. So it was kind of a dance to bolster yourself and to give a celebration that you're going to be doing this. And then upon return of the hunters, there was also a celebration because then you're bringing home food and hides and whatever's needed for the tribe to have. So there was a second celebration, a coming home celebration. And times of conflict that was mixed in with empty saddles and empty ponies sometimes. So it took on the spirituality parts of it. So it became what some of the tribes call a crying song. There are songs dedicated to that called crying songs. And those have pretty much gone away because we don't do that anymore. But it still exists during the late 1800s. There were still crying songs. In fact, The last one I heard was when I was like 16 or 15. A song sang over a grave without accompaniment, just by himself. And then my uncle did it too once, and I like to carry that tradition on. And so there are different reasons for songs and different places that we do those songs. But the most enjoyable parts of those is when we celebrate with one another. In the old days, it would be the tribe or the family that would gather, and they would have these dances. One of the famous ones that we have is called the bear dance, which is unique to the Udingan tribe. But the dances that we do today, and that I'm going to be talking about, is just progress to the point where, where everything progresses from the starting point. It becomes better and better and better, and the people get better at it all the time because they spend more time practicing. Those of you that watched the Olympics for the last 2 weeks, who came out ahead? The United States. And why is that? You look at it and say, why aren't the other countries? Because the United States spend so much time because they're dedicated to their sports, and they spend so much time doing it that they become the best of the best. Well, that's what these guys do too. These dancers, they practice all of the time so that they can be the best of the best. So it's just kind of like a rodeo circuit, where the cowboys follow a circuit. These people do the same thing. I was in Fort Hall, Idaho just this last weekend. There were 787 dancers there. 787. I was in Gathering of Nations. There was 1,700 dancers there, and competing for first, second, third, and fourth places. And other places that hold powwows have different monetary amounts, depending on who's sponsoring the powwow. Today you can have a casino powwow. This is funded by casinos across the country. These casinos can afford to pay the first place winners like $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 in some places. And so the dancers cater, they go there for that. And there are different dances. There are reservation powwows. Reservation powwows are put on by the tribes themselves. And they do it for their people and the Indian people. And they invite everyone to come. You can go there. There's no admission fee. It's free to get in because it's a reservation and a tribal powwow funded by the tribe on their lands, on trust properties. And so there's that. Fort Duchesne, my tribe in Fort Duchesne has about 4 powwows every year. The biggest one is the 4th of July powwow, and I dance there every year. They do something like 300 dancers, and it's all free. You just find a parking place, walk in, and be a part of the audience. It's really a good opportunity to experience the full celebration of a full-blown powwow. Other kinds of powwows is city powwows. This is like Denver March Powwow, Albuquerque, Montrose. This is a city without a reservation close by, without an Indian population. Me and Helen are the only brown-skinned certified skins here. And so, but there are in Montrose about maybe six tribal members. And that's it. And here we hold one of the best powwows here for the last 2 years. And so this is a city one. Most places the city will fund and carry the powwow. And they ask for admission. They get their money back that way. And that's what this powwow does. So there are different kinds of powwows that happen across the country. And if you look on Indian Powwow or powwow.com, there's a powwow every weekend somewhere. It's flourished. Where it used to be really rare to find one going somewhere, there's one almost every weekend. At the same time that we're having our powwow, there'll be one in California and the one in Nebraska that are huge, that attract all the dancers, and there's one in the closest one to us, which is Soldier Summit. And but we do pretty well. So it's kind of a competing thing. But I want to move on to some of the dancers. So what was described before by Sue and Ray, very ably done, is that when we do our powwows, the powwow is begin on a spiritual nature. You don't get in on this, but before the powwow starts, the ground is blessed. We do a ground blessing. I do it on Thursdays. We go there and we bless the ground so that, in our belief, these are dances that should not be interrupted, or dances that should not be tainted in any way. And so we pray for the Creator to put us in the right mode and protect us from any that might have an occurrence that way, because you never know. So that happens prior to these starting. And then Friday, it's setup day. That's when the vendors all come and get set up, and the layout of the floor is always taped up so that people know where they're going to go. And then generally all across the nation we start powwows like 7 o'clock Friday night, and people register to be in contests in different categories, which I'll go through here. And that is open till Saturday. People can register up till noon Saturday, and the people that come in Friday are all registered and ready to go. But really the crux of it starts on Saturday at 1 o'clock, and it goes until 5, break time. And 7 o'clock, another grand entry. Grand entry is when all the dancers come in at once to present themselves and to gain that camaraderie between all of themselves. Some people think it's just a show. It is not a show. It is to commemorate one another and establish that camaraderie and friendship between dancers and their families that are there. And that's what that's about. The tribe that sponsors it will have their staff come in first if it's a tribal powwow, and that is usually an elder of the tribe bringing in their staff, which belongs to the tribe and then is significant to that tribe. In a city powwow, they will select someone, normally a veteran, to come in and bring the flag of the United States, and because that's not a reservation, and they will come in and bring in the American flag. And then that takes place for the casino ones too. If the tribe has it, they will bring in an elder to lead the dance in. I sometimes get little feedback from people on the veterans issue, and you have to kind of hold fast to your commitment and the way you believe, because almost every family has sacrificed someone, or someone in your family has gone on to the next world because of the military issues. I have a brother and an uncle who served in World War II in Korea, and I have a brother that went to Vietnam and came back without an arm, and a year later he was dead. He was 20 years old. And so a lot of times that's the reason that you participate. But if you go into it in a question that's put to you, and that is this: normally a Caucasian white person will ask me this: why do you Native Americans honor the military who have subdued you, who have ran you off your lands? Why do you honor the military? Why do you participate? Why do you do these things? Because Native Americans will be the first to recognize the veterans that fight for this country. And so you need to step back and take a look at it in terms of what you personally feel about it and as a tribe. It's true that we were conquered by the United States. But you know that Native Americans believe that the land that you walk on was created by the Creator. And there were no boundaries to the Native Americans when they walk on this land. The only reason that they can't go where they want to go is because of man-made boundaries. Man-made boundaries. Indians had no boundaries except for geological or geographic locations, mountain ranges, rivers. That was the point that they could go with their neighboring tribes. So it was not anything, and it was very, very upsetting and strange to them to have someone come and strike a straight line across mountains and be told you can't go across that line. See, so it goes much further than just saluting a flag. It goes back to our history and relationship with the United States. But as time progressed, our Native people, being attached to the land as they are, and being believers that Mother Nature and the Creator allows you to walk on this land, will fight for this land against the aggressors that will take this land away from you. So it's kind of an area of difficulty to some people, where Native Americans will just jump into to support the United States, at the same time knowing that they're the ones that took them over. So you see, it's kind of a difficult thing. So when they do these flag ceremonies, these recognition of Native American or the veterans, it's really coming from the heart. It's really, really much more stronger because of that they have to overcome and feel comfortable doing and allowing their family members, such as my brother, to go because he's no longer around. And so we do these honoring of veterans because our own people are veterans of the United States, even though there may be other people that would wonder why we do that. I have been asked that many times because I'm involved in powwow and honoring of veterans. I do that for my brother and my uncle and all of those that have gone, because if you take a Native American population on any given reservation, such as mine, 3,000 people, and if you lose 3 or 4, comparatively, we've been impacted. Because across the United States, where you're talking millions of people, and you lose one, it's an impact to that little community, perhaps. But to us, it's our whole reservation that's impacted by the loss of maybe just one, percentage-wise. And so, Native Americans, whether it's known or not, really, really give a lot. And we feel it, and we know it, and that's part of the reason why we do these things. And that was brought to my mind again. It's been a month and a half. Someone asked me that. He said, and it was a white person, said that if it were me, I'd never do anything and I'm kind of taken aback because he is an American citizen. His family's been an American citizen for all of the history. Native Americans were made citizens of the United States in 1924. 1924. The Ute Indians of Utah were allowed to vote on a national basis in 1967. So, are we happy about all this? You know, in supporting the United States that has dealt us that and made us citizens in 1924? Is there something wrong here? Is there some, you know? But we do. We jump to it. Native Americans are first there, and they're the ones to honor Native Americans. We had a celebration out here at the museum once, and we honored the veterans that were just there. I just called them out of the crowd, and they came down and stood right there in front of everybody, and we did the honor song for them, and they all got to know each other. We took time and said, you guys matriculate, talk to one another. We gave them pads of paper so they could take addresses of one another, which they did. And then two of them came forward and said that the only time they've ever been honored is by Native Americans in a setting like that. So you see, it has gratifications. And so we do that, and we welcome in doing that, and most of our people do that. In Fort Hall, Idaho, there was a great procession of veterans that were honored. Veterans are the ones that lead the dancers coming in. And so, we're pretty sincere people in doing what they're doing, because really, they don't have to today. And so then we move on to the next in line of them will normally be the women's VFW, or the women's military group, if they're there, and after that will be the royal. These are people, men and women that are chosen by their tribes to represent them nationally and travel about the country representing that tribe in a royalty. It could be a queen, princess, young brave, that kind of thing. So they follow the procession. Then after that, the Golden Age men, the elders will follow. And then they will lead the actual scene. That before them is all of the royalty and all of the specialized people. But after that, it will be the dancers, the regular dancers. And the elders will then lead that part in. So when you're watching these grand entries, you know, without knowing all of that, it would just be a procession of people, a procession of dancers, and you can't tell which is which. But hopefully, with my information, you'll be able to sit up there in the bleachers and be able to take them apart and say, this is the guard section, and this is the royalty section, and now the elders will come, leading the entire procession. And then after that, it'll break down into the younger, and then the ladies, the elder ladies will come, and then it'll break down. And the last ones to come in will be the tiny tots, the little guys, the ones that wannabes. We have sayings that says, there's wannabes, and then there's can't be's, and then there's a host of other names, but so that's how the powers broke down in the grand entry. And then after that, after they come to a standstill, everybody's inside of the arena. Then they will have the honor the flag song. They will have different tribes in the 1920s or 1820s and 1830s, when they were actually put on reservations, the Ute tribe was put on the last reservation in 1881, but this reservation period went on from the early 1800s. And so they were concentrated in areas because reserve means reserved for a certain purpose. And this was reserved for people, reserved for Indians. And so when they were, before that, they were scattered all over. Now they're concentrated. And so they began to do things in a formal way. And that's where some of these come from. And they used to have songs that are totally dedicated to one purpose, such as the crying song that I said. And so when they started to have these powwows and gatherings, they had their staff, and they would have songs for that. And then when as time progressed and the American flag found its way into that, then they began to sing flag songs, they call it. And these are people that are associated with the military, that felt strongly about that there should be a song dedicated to the American flag. And so today, not every tribe, but most of the different categories of tribes have a flag song. The Plains tribe has their flag song, which all of us recognize just as it starts out, that it's a flag song. The Southwest have their own flag songs. The Oklahomas have their own. You can tell, and the way you tell that is the beat of the drum. It'll go. That is normally the beat for a flag song. When I lectured to kids, I used to tell them that, in their heartbeat tells you who you are, and theirs goes doo 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 doo. And my heart goes doo 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 doo. That's the way kids understand Hollywood. But see, in our culture, the drum beat tells you which song is being sung. So if you hear, and maybe you're in the vendor section, and you hear this, you're going to know that it's an honor song or the flag song. Those are the ones that go with that beat. And then there's the powwow songs. Theirs is one big, and that gets your attention. And then they have the solo go, and we'll get into that a little bit. But theirs is a totally different sound. And then you have the round dance. And I'm hoping to have a round dance at the powwow before the conclusion of it, so that we can bring all of the people in. And that drum is like this. And that can go pretty fast. For the women contestants, they put them through a pretty rigorous thing there, and it goes. They gotta stop, the feet has to stop right when that hits, and then go. And then it repeats that and starts stopping. So you have to know these songs. The songs, you can't, if you're out there competing, you don't just, they're not just hopping around or dancing. Their feet has to hit the floor at the same time the drum does. So when you're watching the powwow, watch the feet. The feet will hit the ground at the same time that the drum will. On traditional dancing, fancy dancing, all of those. There are different kinds of dances that have creeped up into the powwow, where the original dances was the traditional dancing. The traditional dancing is a warrior type thing. This was when they went to battle or hunting, and they would have their celebrations so that they could go out and do their thing. See, these are when you see these dresses, these two top ones are Plains Tribe traditional. They are beaded work. They have a roach and a feather and what is called a bustle in the back. These are northern traditional. These are imitating warlike moves, hunting moves, and stalking of game. That's what this is. The beat of drum is moderate, slow, but it can come pretty fast because they have detected game ahead of them, and they are now on the track to gain access to the deer or antelope, buffalo, whatever, and they need to move quicker so the song picks up and they start to move quicker. That's where that traditional comes in. The bottom one is a southern traditional. These are southern traditional dancers that have no feathers, that have only, I think on top, up here, but you see that's void of the eagle feathers. It's mainly cloth. Now these are doing the same thing, except it's their environment, and they're having to put up with desert and semi-arid desert areas, and so they're dressed different. And this is what is called Southern traditional, and there is a category for this. These people will compete with one another in accordance with their traditional way of dancing. This mainly came from Oklahoma. Oklahoma people kind of originated this, and it spread throughout the Southwest, and it's now danced by most of the Southwest people. Traditional dancing came from like South Dakota, principally the Sioux Nation, that pushed that, and it quickly spread through the Plains tribes down into Colorado. Even the Apaches do some of this dance, and they're clearly in the South, but they do dances in this fashion. I was just there a month and a half ago to Dulce, New Mexico, and danced in their powwow. And theirs is pretty much this way, but in order to make the powwow versatile, they will invite these people, and they will come and compete with them, with one another. And so then, those are the traditional dancers that used to be, that's the only thing that was around, was traditional. But for the women, this bottom part is the women's traditional. And these are buckskin. And when you see that, you're going to know that those are traditional to the Plains tribes, the buckskin. Okay, I'm only talking about these bottom ones here. That is the northern traditional. So then, I think I have a southern shell too, but so then as time went on, tribes began to explore different ways of dancing. When I was dancing, it was called grouse dances, because we have grouse on our reservation, and you know how they dance. So if you will imagine living without any development out there, just in the environment, with nothing but your family, uncle, whatever it might be in your camp. You wake up in the morning, and what do you hear? You hear birds, you hear animals, but that's because you're living amongst them. You're part of them. And so as children, you begin to imitate some of these animals because that's what you see on a daily basis. And so grouse are there, and they have this beautiful plumage. And so a lot of our people began to imitate the grouse. So they would imitate them and they would dance like them. And they would dance the fast dance and move around and things like this. And so when I started dancing, it was called the grouse dance. And then when we moved up into the Ouray, into the community, the people there were dancing what they called war dance. They called it the war dance. And what the heck's this? So kind of different name dance. And so everybody was doing what they called war dance. And then after that, it became traditional dancing, Plains tribe dancing. And that's, so the progression there of going from what I was doing to something different. So in comes the ladies who wants to be all fancy and all that stuff. You guys gotta be pretty and everything you do. And these, what has come out of that is called the fancy shawl. When you see this, these are the ladies that are imitating butterflies. The shawl is designed so that when it spreads out, this right here, that they're imitating butterflies. It was called the butterfly dance for a long time, but everybody started calling it the fancy shawl because all the tribes were adopting it pretty fast. And so they began to make their dresses and the shawls in a nice decorative fashion. And it began a trend all on its own. They have where the traditional dancers have the buckskin, and their dance is much slower and much slower. The beat of the drum is much slower. These ladies are going 100 miles an hour, and they're showing like a really athletic way of dancing. And so then it did for the men too. These are the guys that's in shape. These guys are the Olympians. These guys could go 100 miles an hour and still be willing to go again. Up in Fort Hall, they had something like 15 of these guys here. This is called grass dance. Grass dance came from the Oneidas and the people of the Great Lakes area. But up in Fort Hall, they had so many of them that they had them all dance at once, and then they would pull out the winners, and then the others kept on dancing till they got to 10. And then those 10 got out there and competed with one another, and they were being eliminated by being pulled out, and then the very last one that was left dancing was the champion. And these are dancers. This is all from Montrose here. These are the people that were here last year. Grass dancing came from the Oneida, as I said, or Ojibwe, and when they were being hunted down and moved onto reservations, they would find themselves in a place where they couldn't escape, or they were caught up to, and so they would dive and hide in the grass, the tall grass of the prairies up there. And a lot of them got away because they could conceal themselves in the grass, the tall grass, the buffalo grass. And so it became the idea that if you imitated and became part of the environment, the grass, that you could actually become invisible, that you would be hard to find, and the cavalry and the army would pass by you. And so came the idea of the grass dance. And the grass dance has been adopted by many, many tribes now across the nation, and this is how they did it. The original grass dance, when I seen them, had none of these except that they were long fringes of buckskin or cloth that was cut in strips, and they would sway like green grass and stuff. But it's progressed now to the point where it's like this. And a lot of it is attention getters because the judges are watching them. So if the flashier you are, the better you'll get judged and you can win. So it's become into that now. But the beginnings of it was very humble. There were very few people that did it. And but today it's one of the most prolific dance categories. And a lot of people, a lot of men like to do that. And this is called the fancy dance. These are guys that are endurance. These are the Iron Men of powwows. These guys, the drum beat is so fast that that they, you know, you can't hardly keep up with it, but these guys do. And they have to stop right when the drum stops. And there are places where they call them trick songs. There will be a group of singers that will come up with a trick song where right in the middle of it they will stop. And if you know that song, you can stop right with it, with a pose of some sort, you know, and be right with it, and then pick it up again and go, you know, because it just doesn't stop there until it gets right to the maximum speed that these guys can twirl and do their stunts. But these guys are really fun to watch. People come to watch these. And this one is perpetual motion, just like they're trying to imitate the grass, wave of the grass. And theirs is much more gentler and much more fluid, and they dance a little more smoothly. These guys are pretty much athletes. And this is, and I couldn't find this one to tell you, these are the northern traditionals, and it's mostly buckskin. And these are slow dancing, gentle dancing, with songs that are really slow and appropriate, that you can follow it. And they just kind of like, they have these long, this is my daughter, by the way, and they just sway to that music, and it's so beautiful to see their fringes swaying right with the music, and it just puts you in a different mood of the powwow. And this is another one that cropped up because of the popularity of the dances called jingle dance. This came from the Ojibwe tribe, Northeast, and it came about of a young lady that had the tribe that was meditating and praying for her tribe to get better back then when they were being put on reservations. And she did get a response from the Creator that came to her and instructed her on what she should do. Go to your tribe and teach them this dance. Teach them this dance, and your tribe will prosper. You'll get better. But you stay with it, you sing these songs, and you pray. This is kind of like a spiritual dance. And so she went back and taught her father the song that she was told to sing and how to make her dress. It evolved from tobacco, the Copenhagen, the steel part of it, the metal part of it. They would take it from the ranchers and the frontiersmen, whoever came into their country that chewed tobacco and threw them away. They would take that and make it into a cone, fold it up into a cone, and then string them put them on their dresses. And when you get them together, it clatters and makes that jingling sound. And that was the basis of the jingle dance. And it has its own method of dance. I see it going away. When it first came into the Ute tribe, into this country, there was several ladies that danced it the original way, and that is your feet slide forward. And but today, most of the dancers are dancing it like the other ones, but in the dress of jingle dance. So today, just like anything else, the jingles are manufactured by some company, and it has the appearance of the Copenhagen thing on it, and they just buy it outright and string them on their dresses and make these dresses today. But the function is still the same, except like I'm saying, the dance steps have progressed a little bit and gotten away from the original dancing as I know it and the way it came to us. But they're still pretty much the same. They're only they don't have any feathers except, see, this fan that came to be later. It was not original, part of the original dance. They had no fans, and all they had was the feather on top. And the way they did it was they just had their hand on their hip like this, on both sides, and they danced that way and stood straight up. And that was the jingle dance. And those are the categories that we have. The only thing that we have different this year, and I showed this to some of you before, but there are some of you that weren't here, is this year, because we want to entertain other types of Indians, and with Indian background, they have to have strong Indian background or else I wouldn't entertain it. But I have asked the local Aztec dancers to be part of our powwow this year. And there is a local chapter here that are here, and I wanted to see how serious they were and how authentic they were, and if they really knew what they were doing. So I have gone and talked to them, and they have satisfied me in their true intent and how they plan to do it. And I'm satisfied, and I think that they will do us a really good job. So I'm going to feature them like 5 o'clock on Saturday, so that they can take up that time that we would normally take a break and there would be nothing happening. So we will feature the Azteca dancers and let them speak for themselves at that time. So it ought to be a really, really interesting thing. So here's another picture of another one of them. Then I had this picture that when it was in Main in Motion, some lady grabbed the picture and kind of wanted it, and so it kind of got mangled a little bit because I was in tug of war with this lady. He's 17 years old. I told him that. I said, he's only 17. So, oh, that's a nice picture. So, if any of you have any questions, we can do that. But I wanted to show you a couple of things. My regalia, and that's what we call them. We don't call them costumes. Costume is like Halloween. You're dressed in something that you're not. But ours is regalia. But see, I want to show you the exquisite work that goes into something like this. And that's the back. And it's totally beaded. See? Isn't that something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I acquired this from a guy in Albuquerque, and he told me that this is a clan. This is the horse clan. There's the tracks right there on both sides. And that these are mountains, and that this is snow falling down off onto the land. And there's a nice work on it. So it's getting to the point where people are beating just about everything that goes on their regalia, and this is a headpiece that is fully. And it wasn't long ago before it was just a bone, an eagle bone, a hollow bone that the feathers went down into, and it was tied on the bottom. But now you can find these as a beautiful work for roach top. And this is how it comes. This is what Native Americans have in their trunk, in their suitcases, that they come to these with. I just wanted to show you on how some of this comes about. But this is a regular elastic support, and the way you do it is you just take it, and this is how you transport it to keep it in good condition. And this is porcupine hair. And you pull this out, this is how it supports it. And then you spread it out. Like this. And this is made out of yarn inside of here. It's rolled back and forth and attached to one another. And then this is porcupine quilt. This is porcupine, and it is sewn along the sides onto the yarn. And these are different lengths. I have one that's, when I was a boy, that's this length. Then this is the one now that I have. And this is full blown. And what you do is it just depends on taste. They put a spreader up here, and that's what this goes. It goes right here. And it spreads it out like that. And they have even wider ones that'll make it even more so than that. And so the quality of a roach, that's what they call it, as a headgear, is the length of the hair and how the color is distributed. If you take notice of the dancers, you will see that they're not all alike. You're going to see, I saw in Fort Hall, Idaho, this young boy, and wow, his was about that long, and it was all totally black here, and just the very tips of it was this color here. And when he danced, all you saw was just this. And so it was just a really beautiful headgear. And this one is average. It's average, and this is deer hide, and it's colored, dyed. A lot of them will have deer skin in here that'll line it out. Today, as time is progressing again, we're getting different. Some of the guys this is totally beaded down through here with a trailer here. So they come in all different ways now, according to the artists and stuff, and they're and really becoming centerpieces that you can stand and just look at some of this work that's being done out there and how beautiful they're making it these days, you know. But I wanted to show you some of that because you don't see these things individually. You just see them out there and you're just amazed with everybody. So, but if you look at some of this and see how they chose their colors and how it's put together and how they put their feather arrangement up here. They have arrangements here where this right here is tethered. The feather is tethered down inside of here, but it's not solid. It's so that it rolls and it twists. The feather will twist around, and however they put their head, it'll twist in that direction because it's loose. Then there are others, the fancy dancers. They will bring theirs up here and attach them to each other, and then it's kind of like it's on a wire that's loose. So when they nod their head back, that thing will go like this. Another way of impressing the judges. It's just another flash to the judges to see how they're doing. And then I want to show you just how we do this is a headdress that my father had in the 60s. He was the tribal leader. He was the chairman of my tribe, and so he had this made by his uncle. It's been in the family for that long, and when he passed away, then I inherited it, and I wear this in with my regalia. And it's not. This is my mother beaded this part and this, and my father put this together. This is ermine, and these are gold eagle feathers. It takes 2 eagles to do this, and these are the down underneath the tail feathers, and then this is wrapped so that they can match the length of it, and this is rabbit fur, and this is horsehair.
Wow.
And it makes into a very, very useful, and we don't just use these just anywhere. These are very, very special to people who wear them. In Fort Hall, they had a special category called the war bonnet dancers, and I was a part of it. And so they recognize these as a leadership, part of the leadership brigade. And so some of it, when you wear these things, they have a real meaningful purpose for you personally, and people who see this know that there's a reason for wearing these. And so these are pretty special to have. It's pretty special to wear during those occasions. And so that's the purpose for this one. Are there any questions, guys? Yes.